Hey, what's up, everybody? Coming to you today with the number 3's report. So I told you guys I'm going to start looking at all the top 5 fighters. I already did my number 1s in each division and my number 2s. And now this one is going to focus on my number 3's in every division from 122 pounds all the way up to heavyweight. Excuse me. So, again, guys, if you like my videos, give me the thumbs up. You don't like them, thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel. Leave me a message. I really appreciate any kind of love and support. I appreciate you guys a lot. So let's jump in now. So my number 3's. We'll start at 122 and work my way up to heavyweight. And take a look at the top guys in the in every division. These are some of the top guys. So let's start. My first number 3 at 122 pounds is the former unified super bantamweight world champion, Daniel Roman. Well, Roman, we don't know 100% what he's doing next, but I really do think we're going to find out soon. I personally feel Roman's going to end up fighting, getting in the ring with Luis Neri for the WBC title. I think they're both with the PBC. They both last fought on the same night in September. I know Roman recently expressed interest in Stephen Fulton Jr. for the WBO belt, but that fight's probably not possible for a few months. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but I don't know if Roman wants to still wait around. And I think Neri wants to, before he says he wants unification bouts, but Stephen Fulton's not going to happen next. And Mirajan Akhmadiev, the other champions, looks like he's making a mandatory next in March. So if Neri's supposed to be coming back, I really think that's a perfect fight for him right now. Continuing, go beat a former world champion who was number 1 the year before. Go beat him, hold on to your title, and then push towards mandatories when they're more makeable. So I'm leaning towards that for Daniel Roman. I think that's what he's going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into the fight with Brandon Figueroa either. I think Roman's going to get some good opportunities to jump back to the top of the division by facing some of the best fighters, because the PBC really does have a good hold on 122, so we'll see. Number 3 at 126, featherweight, is, Kid Galahad, former world title challenger. Well, Galahad got great news recently. Josh Warrington, instead of making a mandatory rematch with Galahad, he decided to vacate the IBF title in pursuit of either the regular championship for the WBA or the WBC title against Gary Russell. And that title's vacant, and it looks like Galahad is for sure going to be rematching against Jaza Dickens, who he beat, I think it was in 2012. He stopped him in the 10th round. Looks like they're going to be fighting all these years later for the vacant IBF title. They've already, I think the fight has already been won. It went to a purse bid, and it's already been won. So this fight should happen. It should happen in the next couple months. It looks like it's fairly easy, and I think Kid Galahad's on his way towards his first world title. So big developments right there, and I can't wait to see Galahad and Dickens get in the ring for the title. Number 3 at 130, which is super featherweight. That is the reigning IBF champion, Joseph Diaz Jr. Well, Joseph Diaz returns next weekend, Saturday, February 13th, on DAZN, when he main events and makes a mandatory defense of his title against undefeated Russian Shavkat Rakhimov. This is a good fight, and it's not a fight Joseph Diaz needs to overlook his opponent in whatsoever. Rakhimov is a good, solid fighter. He's worked his way up, and he is ready for this fight. Joseph Diaz needs to bring his A game. It's going to be good. I still have him winning a unanimous decision, but I do think it's going to be competitive, and I do think it's going to be a good fight. Definitely not a blowout, but I got Diaz by a decision, and hopefully he still holds on to his world title by the next number 3 report. Number 3 at 135 pounds, lightweight, is undefeated WBA regular champion Gervonta Tank Davis. I know I mentioned him in number 2 report, number 1 report, because I have him number 1 at 130 right now. But he has a secondary world title at 135, and because the PBC doesn't have a big selection at 130 or 135, I think Davis is willing to make either weight. He came in great shape for his last fight at 130 when he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz in the biggest win of his career. So I really think he'll take on all comers at 130, and I think he'll take on the best fight possible at 135. He recently just got injured, but we don't know how severe the injury is, but I definitely think he's interested in a showdown with Ryan Garcia. Not sure if that's possible next, so we just got to wait and see, but I'm hoping we hear some kind of news that the injury is not that bad, and we will see him back in the first half of the year. Hopefully, I know something by the next number 3's report. The number 3 fighter at 140 pounds, junior welterweight, I got that as the former champion Regis Prograis. Prograis is calling everybody out. He's calling Adrian Broner out. He's calling everybody out. Excuse me. Trying to get in line for a big fight. Not sure what kind of big fight he's going to get next. I just don't know. I like Prograis. I want to see him fight the best, but guys aren't really lining up to fight him. So I think he needs to, if he wants to secure a world title shot, he needs to fight in some kind of an eliminator. Take somebody on. I know they said WBA regular champion Mario Barrios was interested. Prograis needs to fight the first half of the year, plain and simple. He needs to fight somebody. He needs to stay busy and get his ass back in the ring. That way he can call out the winner of Ramirez and Taylor, who fight in May. But he really needs to make a move if he wants to try to get that fight or another big fight prior to moving to 147. So we'll see. Again, hopefully we hear more news on him by the March report. Let me see. Next, number 3 at 147 pounds, welterweight, is the now former WBA super champion, the Pac-Man Manny Pacquiao. Well, Pacquiao has been declared the champion of recess, as the WBA upgraded Yordenis Ugas to super champion. So basically, Pacquiao can go fight for that title whenever he wants, when he comes back, if he wants. Him moves ahead of any mandatory fights. Pacquiao's just stalling it out, though. It's been, a year and a half since he fought, so if he does not have his next fight scheduled, or we don't at least have some kind of idea, I'm probably going to drop him out of my top 10 by the March report. I like Pacquiao. I like Pacquiao a lot. 42 years old, and he can still compete with the best and beat most of them. But he needs to get his next fight signed. I still hope that Pacquiao is looking at a Mikey Garcia fight. I think that's a good one, especially for him to come back into. But we just got to wait and see, you know. Pacquiao is, we really don't know what he's going to do. We don't know if he's interested in Errol Spence. We don't know who he's interested in, but I would really like to see him come back against Mikey Garcia. So hopefully we hear something by the March report. 154, number 3, WBA regular champion, Erislandy Lara. Still don't know. I still want to believe that he's the front runner to land the Jermell Charlo fight, but at this point we really don't know. I think after Brian Castano and Patrick Teixeira fight on February 13th, we're going to get some clearer answers on what Charlo's going to do, and then everything else falls into place, because I really believe Charlo might have his goals set on Undisputed. But the only way he can grab Undisputed against the winner of Castano and Teixeira, especially if it's Castano. If Castano wins, the WBO belt comes to the PBC, and then all 4 major titles are controlled by the PBC. That means that Charlo probably fights first half of the year, but he would have to make a mandatory defense in a rematch against Erickson Lubin. He knocked Lubin out in the very first round when they fought the first time. Lubin is very good. I personally feel he got caught with a not a lucky punch, but just a picture-perfect punch out of nowhere. He didn't see it. He was 22. He got laid out. Now, I really think it could be a different story in a rematch. I'm not saying Lubin will win, though, because obviously he can be hurt by Charlo, but I think Charlo might seriously consider, if Castaño beats Teixeira, he might seriously consider making a mandatory defense to hold on to the WBC belt against Erickson Lubin, and then rolling into possibly an undisputed title fight later this year against Castaño. Again, I think the Castaño fight is going to make a big difference on what happens in this division. Castaño also becomes an option for Erislandy Lara if Charlo passes on fighting Lara. So that would be a rematch. So Lara has got to wait and see, but I really hope we hear something soon, because I like Lara. And, well, I kind of like Lara, but I just think Lara's willing to fight anybody, and I want to see him get opportunities, you know? So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we hear something by the March report. Number 3 at 160 is the undefeated WBO middleweight champion of the world, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. So Andrade is fighting his mandatory title defense against Englishman Liam Williams is going to a purse bid this week coming up on February 10th. So we should know sometime in February, you know, maybe by early March when Demetrius Andrade's fighting Liam Williams. I really believe that's going to be his next fight. The Billy Joe Saunders fight has sailed. Saunders is getting ready for Canelo in May. I think Andrade is going to wait to make sure Canelo beats Avni Yildirim and doesn't get hurt before he signs on the dotted line for Williams, because if something like that happens and it ruins the Billy Joe Saunders fight with Canelo, Saunders might be willing to fight Andrade, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I believe Andrade is going to fight Liam Williams next. Hopefully we get a clearer picture on when and if that fight's going to happen by the March report. Number 3 at 168 is former WBA super champion Callum Smith of the United Kingdom. Smith, we haven't really heard anything. We know after the Canelo loss and beatdown that he suffered, that Eddie Hearn has been urging him to move up to light heavyweight. He's big enough. He's a good enough boxer to compete there. So we got to wait and see what he does next. I don't think he's really going to have a lot of options at this weight class. I hope we see him back by May or June area. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it falls in later on into the year, into the summertime, but we'll see, you know. But I think maybe 175 might be a good move for him. We'll see what goes down. Number 3 at 200 pounds cruiserweight is Ilunga Makabu, the reigning WBC champion. Well, what we know about Makabu is that he's going to make a mandatory defense next, but the problem is he has 2 mandatories due. He has the first of the 2 is a showdown with they're both rematches. I think it's Depiso Mishunu. I think he's first in line, but I'm not 100%. And then there's Alexei Papin, which will be a rematch. Now, he knocked out Mishunu a few years ago in a good fight. Knocked him out in the later rounds. Against Papin, though, he struggled, and it was a hard, tough battle. He walked away with a very close 12-round majority decision to become the WBC's #1 contender. That was just in 2019. So, Makabu and Papin, I hope that fight happens, but I think it will. But I think Makabu is going to have to face Mishunu next. And I think that fight's probably going to take place around May or June, because he just won a slugfest and knocked out Duradola in December. So I think he's going to fight Mishunu in like May or June, get him out of the way, and then it's probably Papin. But I'm not sure if Papin goes first or what the situation is. I'm still waiting to hear them order that fight. I think it's going to happen soon, so hopefully we know by the March report. And then, finally, the number 3 heavyweight in the world right now is the former longtime WBC heavyweight champion, Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber. Wilder, we haven't heard exactly what he's doing next, but I think Wilder's itching to get back in the ring, and I really do hope we see him back in the ring in the next couple months. I think once the Tyson Fury-Anthony Joshua fight is finalized, I think we're going to see Wilder make his decision on what he wants to do. I don't think he's going to fight anybody big in the first half of the year. I just think he needs to come back and get a win. My boy Von Blue mentioned possibility of him and Charles Martin. I think that's a very winnable, easy kind of guy to throw against him. You know, if he wants to solidify the WBC's top spot and fight somebody else, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. But Wilder, you know, he's going to have options. I think he's loading up for one of two options in the second half of the year, especially if Fury and Joshua fight again. I think he's loading up for a possible showdown with the winner of the rematch between Povetkin and Dillian White, or he's loading up for a showdown with Andy Ruiz Jr. I think that's really possible for this year because it's a big fight and it would be on likely be on pay-per-view. So I think it's going to be one of those two. We'll see what happens, but that's the number 3's report for all the fighters from 122 to heavyweight. So that's it, guys. Like my page. Don't like it. Subscribe to my channel. Any kind of love I appreciate, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.